set of questions that we have. So we've got find the average salary and average total compensation for each job type. So looking at this, we know we're going to be working with salary and compensation, so that's sal and com, and we want to work out the average of those. So it's going to be, we know it's going to be select from, I always start with select from where, and so we know we want something like average sal and then average, and it's com, and if you remember it's com with two M's for commission. And we're working from the emp table. Now there's no particular, it says for everything, so we know we're not going to have a where clause, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Now if we run that, we can see the average salary and the average commission, but that of course is for all the jobs, whereas this is actually asking us for that information for each particular job type. Now the moment that we start getting into particular job types, that means we're going to be using that sort of clumping, grouping idea. So in here we want to do something like group by, there we are, and it says that we're going to group by a particular thing that we want to bunch together. We know it's going to be by job, so it's going to look something like this, group by job. Now if we run that, here we can see we've got the average salary and the average commission for each job type. Of course, it's not clear which job applies to each row. So, as I've indicated before, more often than not, when we're doing a group by, we'll put the thing that we're grouping by on the top line as well. So here you can see we'll add job on the top line, and now if I run that, there we go, we can see the average salary and the average commission for each particular job type. And if I wanted to, I could add a where clause in just to tidy up these column headings. I won't do that here, but we would just use that as reserved word. So that's that one. That's number 4. Number 5, display the most recently employed person. Okay, so let's simplify this back to where we were. Now, display the most recently employed person. Now we actually have a column called hire date here, and so what we're really looking for is we're looking for the person where that date is the highest it can be. And the way to get the sort of the highest, the biggest value for anything, of course, is to use the max function. So we know we're going to do something like max hire date, like that, hire date from emp. So if I run that, that gives us, this is the date, this is the latest possible date, the most recently employed person, in other words. Now, the question that says, display the most recently employed person. So we want to find the person who matches this particular date. Now, this is a classic example of your first instinct might be, you might start going, oh, okay, so we want the person, sort of like, I don't know, emp number, max hire date, but of course that's not really going to work. Emp number is a column of values, whereas max hire date is a single value. There's no way that this can work, it's not compatible. And really, what's the linkage between emp number and max hire date? It's not, there's no where clause here, we're not testing. How would you test on this? And of course what's wrong is our approach is wrong here. The approach with a question like this is to use a subquery. So we find the maximum hire date, and then we find the person or people who match that hire date. So we'll turn this into our sort of inner query like this. So I'm just going to wrap it up in brackets, and then what we'll actually do, so let's go select star from emp, and what we really want is we want the person, so we're going to go sort of where hire date equals that. So if we look at the inner part first, what we're actually saying is find me the maximum hire date, so that bit runs first, and then we say find the person or people whose hire date matches that particular hire date. So let's try that. So if I click run, and there we go, you can see that Cassie, who works in admin, they have the hire date that corresponds to the maximum hire date from that inner query. So let's have a look at the next one. It says, display the manager with the highest salary. Now, if you look at these two questions, display the most recently employed person, display the manager with the highest salary, you can see they're very similar. There's something very similar in the approach here. Here we're finding sort of the max date. Here we're finding the max salary. So again, it looks to me like something where we could use a subquery quite effectively. Let's go back into here. So I'm going to start off, and we look at this and it says, find the manager with the highest salary. So I'm going to start off, we want to say something like, select max sal from emp. So we're going to start off that select max sal from emp. That's going to show us the maximum salary from the emp table, and if I run that, we get that. Now, it's not quite right because it's actually saying show us the maximum, show us the manager with the highest salary. So of course what we really need to do is we need to find the maximum salary where the job is manager, like that. So specifically search only on the managers, but find the maximum salary across that set of people, and that gives us 39750. It's just like that. Now again, we know this is going to be a subquery, so I put this in here like that. And we're going to have select from where. So let's just show all the details from the emp table where, and of course we're going to match on salary. So we want the salary to match the maximum salary that we found earlier on. So if we run that, we get this. Now, as it turns out, there's only one answer, and that's the correct answer. But there's something still not quite right about that query, because we're finding people whose salary is 39750. Now, in this instance, it works fine. But let's go back and let's have a think about that query. We know the internal bit finds the maximum salary, but that's just a number. So, of course, what the outer query will do is it will find any rows that match that number. So the outer query is a little bit different to the inner query. We know that the inner query will only ever produce managers, but of course the outer query will produce people who are managers, but also people who are not managers. Anybody who's earning that maximum salary will be included in the output set. So what we really need to do is we need to say, find the people whose salary matches that. But again, we also need to say, and job equals manager. And if I run that, we'll get the same result set. But the important point here is that with some data sets, if we didn't put and job manager, we wouldn't get the right answer back. We would find anyone whose salary was that maximum value. So that's how we do display the manager with the highest salary. There's one left, which is this one here. Show the maximum salary in each department. So if I just clean that out. So the maximum salary in each department, well, we know it's going to be max sal. And we know we're going to be gathering information from the emp table. Now, if we go back to the wording here, it says in each department. That means we want to clump the departments together, and we have a department number. So what we can do is we can go group by department number, like that. Now if I run that, that gives us the maximum salary for each department, but of course we don't know which department is which. So let's go back in, and again this is an example of where when you group by, you almost always will include that attribute on the top line. So let's go department number on the top, and then we click run, and there we go. You can see there's the maximum salary in each department. Now you notice there's no one in department 4, so we don't get an answer to that.